Hey, how's everyone doing today? It's Ash the Coyote here, and today we're going to be talking about Beastars. If you haven't seen Beastars, you really should. I'm going to try to avoid any spoilers in this episode as best as possible. Be sure to stick around to the end of the episode where Beagle and Red gets to react to that one scene in Beastars.
Why are they in a shed?
I think you know which scene I mean. It's the pivotal scene. It's the scene that everybody has been reacting to online, and I thought it could be interesting because Beagle and Red has never seen Beastars. This is his first exposure to it. That one scene. So before we get started, I wanted to ask you all a question. Have you seen Beastars? Tell me what you think about it in the comments section below. Alright, so what is Beastars? Beastars is an anime and a manga series that has been finally released here in the US with an English dub and translation. It's really good. It's amazing. Conceptually, the best way I could really describe it is it's basically Zootopia, but for adults. And what I mean by that is it really gets into some of those more complex elements that you don't ever really get to address in Zootopia. That relationship between predators and prey, that dynamic that exists between, the perceived carnivores, the stronger folks, versus the meeker herbivores or smaller critters that exist. And trust me, there's a much more drastic difference in size and scale in this world. I really think that they took the idea of Zootopia and just elevated it. So the main plot of Beastars focuses in on the students of an academy who are coping with a traumatic event that's happened on campus. One of their students was devoured by a carnivore. I mean, that alone, addressing that aspect alone in the story right off the bat, to me, is just really interesting, engaging, dynamic, amazing. I'm thrilled to see that there's a series that takes kind of the idea of furries seriously and tries to play with how those interactions might exist in the real world. I mean, the author themselves, now I'm not sure if this is true, so if it isn't, I'm sorry, but I've heard that the author themselves is actually a furry, like that they've quote-unquote come out as furry. I mean, if you read the mangas, all the staff basically has their own personas. There's so many really cool, cute dynamics that they put into it all too. I mean, it's just really neat. I mean, I totally have a crush on Legoshi, and I have a crush on Legoshi for a really strange reason, because it's Legoshi for me is a very relatable character. So he's the quote-unquote male lead character in the story. He's just a really awkward wolf, and he's that tall, awkward, shy guy, And for me personally, when I was growing up, when I was going through high school, that's a very relatable character archetype, and it's the first time I see that type of character addressed in a series, pretty much period. He's not really portrayed as this super outgoing, gregarious, likable guy. He's kind of the opposite of that in a lot of ways. He's a little creepy, he's awkward, he's weird, but that makes him enduring as a character. That makes him unique as a character. And I mean, I think that a lot of us kind of see a little bit of ourselves as furries in that guy. I really think that that's why we see a lot of folks in the fandom gravitating to the series so quickly. I mean, besides it having really cool, amazing, intricate anthro characters that are just wow. It gets into so many dynamics of a anthro world that I think most people don't even want to think about. I mean, it gets dark, it gets dirty and grungy. There's a mystery element to it. There's an adult component to it to a certain degree. I mean, there's romance and suspense, and there's violence and visceral existence of these animals. And then it also has these really enduring, human qualities to it too. These themes of love and emotion and passion that just tie throughout. So really what this episode is going to focus on is the overbearing concept of Beastars potentially making the fandom mainstream. I think over the years we've really seen the fandom kind of burst onto the scene, burst forth on media, and in a more positive light than we've ever had in the past. And I think that has led a lot of us to kind of start seeing a more mainstream acceptance of furries in the real world. I mean, people know who we are. People know that it's not all about sex anymore. People understand that this is a very dynamic community of artists, and it's attracted even more amazing creators to it. So Beastars as a show, I think, is going to guide us into this new era, so to speak, of furry, in that we've kind of started to see companies, Netflix tweeted out, it's a good month to be a furry, Beastars is coming out. They recognize their audience. They know their audience so well. This show is being marketed to us. Imagine that. A show being marketed to furries? Furries are a real market to like Netflix and other folks. That tells you something. That tells you that the fandom has grown to a point where it is recognized by corporations and companies as a commodity. Now, is that good or bad? I don't know. I mean, I do think that we're going to see more people coming into the fandom. I do think that we're going to see the fandom's demographics change somewhat over the years. But the important thing from all this is I don't want to see the fandom to move away from, being an open, accepting LGBT-based community to the end that, I think it should always be an open community, regardless of how you might identify or of your own personal preferences or, the interests you have within it. I mean, the danger of going mainstream is that we could lose that. But the positive part of going mainstream is that we might be able to endear some of those qualities to the outside world. And that's what I truly hope. Because when I see the furry fandom, I see a group of people that have found a new way of making things work, a new way of embracing the differences that are in this world, a new way of seeing each other in ways that defy convention. And if we can give the outside world anything, I think we can give them that ability to understand and have a more open perspective. I mean, especially around, the subjects of identity, sexuality, expression. Furries have been able to break through that, and Beastars as a show is breaking down those barriers. It's going to be taking us to a different level because they introduce some of those adult concepts. They introduce violence, visceral violence. They introduce sexuality. It's present, and it's more present than it ever really has been in a mainstream anthropomorphic series. And by kind of introducing those elements into the mainstream world, I mean, there's one or two reactions that are going to happen. Either people are going to sit back and say, I understand this. Okay, this is starting to make a little bit more sense to me. Or they're just going to be like, oh, well, this isn't for me. Both are fine. Both are acceptable. That's a perfectly reasonable thing. I just think that it's such a cool time to be a furry. Like, we've crossed over. I mean, when I first became a furry, if you were caught being a furry, you were made fun of. No joke. People would just rag on you all day. On the internet, furries were the butts of everyone's jokes. They weren't cool, but suddenly now we're kind of cool. Just a few years ago, Violent J from ICP went to MFF with his daughter. I mean, how rad is that? That's pretty freaking cool. I mean, I don't necessarily like their music, but I mean, I think it's cool that they were able to have that experience together, that it is a celebrity that people know, that actually went to the con in suit, had a good time, and realized just how cool furries are. And I think with Beastars, we're going to see a whole lot more of that. I really do. I think that Beastars is going to open the floodgates as far as the attention that our fandom gets, the presence of people that our fandom gets. Possibly even to the point where some of our earlier founders, some of the people like Rod O'Reilly and Mark Merlino, who helped found our fandom under the ideals that this is just a way to enjoy anthropomorphic characters, they might finally get to see their dream realized, where we see a merger of people who are interested in anime that happens to have anthro characters come more into the fandom because we have a higher presence of animal characters here. We might see more crossover in other genres, like we might have had in the past, but kind of has changed more now. I think that it's gonna really change things for the better and in an amazing way. So let me give you some of the things that I like most about Beastars. What I think Beastars does great is how it addresses the world around the characters. This is an intricate society with a lot of social mores that are introduced throughout. For instance, carnivores don't actually eat meat. They eat processed proteins provided to them in the form of meals. Now, there's another dynamic there, but I'm not going to spoil it, so anybody who hasn't seen the series won't get it ruined. But, the food element is addressed, and I think that that's really cool. I think that that's the question that I had in my mind with Zootopia and everywhere else. It's like, wait a second, does a lion still eat meat, or is everybody vegetarian? How does this work? Where do they get their protein from? The simple questions, right? I mean, it seems kind of silly to somebody who might not really be that engaged in the story, but for me personally, where I'm trying to envision a world where furries exist, I have, like some of those simple questions. Hey, what do they eat? How do they handle relationships? Like, what if somebody fell in love with another species? Is that taboo? That's something that's addressed in Beastars too. I think that that's really cool. It's like addressing a different form of social issue. That issue of race is exemplified through species and having like those relationships present, obviously, in, like these living, breathing humanoid characters. I'm not advocating anything outside of that. Like these are conscious beings here. But like, I think it's interesting that they're integrating those elements into this. I think it's interesting how they address it specifically. Then I think it's really cool how they kind of show the day-to-day lives, how they integrate elements of those day-to-day lives into things. So if you're a dog and you shed, you can sell your fur and, like have it made into a sweater for somebody. If you're a chicken and you lay eggs, you can sell those eggs as protein for the carnivores. Like that's really cool. Like, how is that not awesome? How is that not cool? Like, that's amazing. I think that there's like this whole rich world present here that I was really, 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 really wanting from Zootopia that I just didn't get. And then suddenly Beastars is giving it to me and I'm just lapping it up. I'm just like, whoa, that's cool. They address endangered species in it too. Like, they're addressing how these relationship dynamics exist. And then on top of that, they add the layer of endangered species. So like a species that might have less members of it around, and like how that affects how relationships exist between people, how that exists between other characters present in the series, and how the society views those relationships too. That's so cool. And finally, I kind of like the weird harmony that exists. I mean, you can see that the social groups and constructs exist, like within their societies. So, like canines hang out with canines and stuff. But there's so many layers to it. Like all these characters interact on some level. They all have a certain rapport. They all have stereotypes and things that they have to overcome. And that kind of makes it very engaging for me. That makes it really engaging for me, because you're seeing people having to defy their own identities. Like I found that to be incredibly relatable. That struggle that you have inside with your true nature, who you actually are on the inside versus how you present on the outside, and how that is then projected out to your friends and the people that you engage with in your day-to-day life, and the struggles that come with it. All right, so now we're going to shift to a different segment in this episode. I am going to show you a segment that I filmed with Beagle and Red. So Beagle has never seen Beastars before. Never. Just never, ever, 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 ever seen it. This is his first ever viewing. He's going to experience this without any context at all. So it's that one scene from Beastars. And if you've seen Beastars, you know what I mean. If you haven't and you don't want to see a spoiler, I'd avoid this segment in the episode. It is really funny though. It's going to be Beagle reacting to this scene cold. Just like he has no context, no idea. I've only prepared him a little bit with an idea of who the characters are and the basic setting for the scene. If you have seen the series, this is the scene where Haru and Legoshi meet for the first time at the gardening club. So enjoy! I hope you have fun!
He looks so tired.
He's so awkward. Oh my god, Beagle's like the most awkward wolf on the planet.
Why are they in a shed? Is she taking her clothes off?
Yep.
Wait, did they know each other?
They just met. This is their first meeting. Oh, this look at this wolf. He's like, what? Wait, what? Surprise!
He's like, huh?
I love the sweat on his face. He's just like, wait, what? What?
Wait, what was he expecting? Some kind of green... Oh damn, that's the thing your suit maker would say.
Yeah, seriously.
It reminds me of like when you're like talking to your suit because I like this color for... Oh, he ruined the mood. I don't know, when you're just alone in a shed with someone else you just met, what you gonna do? Wait, so what was he expecting? What was she expecting? Of how she just narrates everything that just happened.
So, having never seen Beastars, going into that scene, what do you think, as a furry?
So, based on what I've seen on Twitter about Beastars, I'm getting the vibe that there is spicy stuff in the show.
Yeah, there's some spicy stuff, yeah.
That actually wasn't as spicy as I was expecting it to be.
So
I mean, as a furry who's seen a lot of furry stuff. It's just kind of like, all right, see that would get like the blue rating on FA. You know, not the red, the blue.
What's the blue rating on FA?
I don't know. There's adult and then there's mature. And then this is mature. It's not adult.
Oh my god, is that where Beagle and Red comes from?
I mean, I got some red art. We don't need to. It don't matter.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, like, it's so funny because when I first saw this scene, I was like, what? They're going there?
Okay, but if this is like a mainstream normie show, though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's
so like as a
mainstream
normie,
Netflix.
people would be like, I don't know what normies think anymore. I passed that phase. You can't bring me back to that normie mindset anymore.
You've gone too furry, people.
Too far.
You've gone full in. You're all the way in. You are full-fledged furry now.
Mm-hmm. So like, honestly, I can't say I'm surprised about this scene. I'm just confused about it. Why are they in a shed? Like, come on, like seriously, if you're in a shed with someone else and then they start closing the blinds, you know something's up. You either getting murdered or that's gonna happen.
Alright, I think that's all we have time for. I hope you all have a fabulous day. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're not already, and drop me a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought of Beastars. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you think it's an amazing furry series? I want to know what you think. I hope you all have a fabulous day. Goodbye!